Welcome into this Tuesday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford studio this morning. We'll be joined by Heather McMahan here in about 25, 30 minutes, something like that. Coming up on the show, we do have a little bit of sports news. Try to entertain you, provide some normalcy here for you here in the midst of what we're all dealing with. So the podcast brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Use the Speed Pass Plus app. There, you don't have to touch much. You can pay. You can make things convenient on you and still get those good gas prices. Because if you're driving anywhere, you're going to need fuel to do so. Also, next door at the Oxford Crystal, take advantage of their drive-through. And when you go through, put your name in the fishbowl. They're going to offer on April 27th one Crystal for a year to each. So someone from each location. Sorry, I kind of bungled that a little bit. Also, on Fridays, they are feeding some people in need, first responders, and the like. So support them there at the Oxford Crystal. And again, coming to you from the Clark Ford studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900's that number. You call it, ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Real simple. It's right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is up to you. You can shop it around. You can do what I've done 3 times now, and that's hop into a Clark Ford. You'll love the service after the sale. You'll love the vehicle. You'll just love being a part of the Clark Ford family. Corey wants to be your car guy. He wants to be your truck guy. He'll prove that, like the rest of us, sort of waiting to get back to some degree of normalcy. We eventually will, and when we do, make sure that you make them a part of your first trip back to Oxford, back to the square. It's home of the Bluegrass Brunch on Sundays. Bloody Marys, mimosas, all that stuff at Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford.
Just thought about this a second ago. I saw Andy Staples quote tweeting Grace Rayner, who had this is what happens when you have a pandemic and a quarantine. The Athletic, their movie project this week is Space Jam, and they had an NBA scout the Looney Tunes roster, comparing Lola Bunny to Russell Westbrook and Allen Iverson and the like. So that's where we are right now. That's where things are from a media situation. Thoughts with tons of Sports Illustrated people who lost their jobs yesterday. They had layoffs with, frankly, a lot of, as it typically works, because they're the higher paid people. Some experienced, good writers let go with Sports Illustrated yesterday. So not surprised. It is what it is. And frankly, Sports Illustrated has been hemorrhaging for a little while now. This is the second or third one in the last 18
Maven owns them now, right?
Like I believe that is correct.
Surprised it took this
because
long.
they've got some golf verticals and stuff. Maybe it's either golf.com or Golf Digest they own now too, and there've been some cuts in those areas as well. There's been this is at least the second and maybe the third Sports Illustrated fall here in the last how many ever months.
So Gannett did a furlough.
Did they?
Yeah.
38,000 on the over under there. I think I saw. If you made over 38,000, you got furloughed.
Yeah, 1 week a month furloughed.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So yeah. That's where we are at the moment.
If you look at rebelgrove.com, if you're not a subscriber, now's the time. You can have the summer for free. Go to the links. It's on the site. It's on Twitter. All you have to do is click the link. It's Rebels 2020, and it's free through July 31st, basically. Free to until August the 1st. Just enter that code and check it out.
So again, yesterday I had one more thought there. I kind of forgot. We have time. Carly Ann had never seen Space Jam. I actually turned it on yesterday, completely irrelevant of the athletic stuff. At one point, they do stop the basketball season because of an unknown situation going on in the NBA. Once Patrick Ewing and those guys lost their powers to the Monstars, there was a break in the season. It became quite topical yesterday as I was watching. They didn't know when they could get back to playing.
Well,
it just took Michael Jordan and the gold ball to get everybody back going.
Amazing foresight. And now we're gonna.
It's kind of like The Simpsons.
ESPN has announced that they're going to move up the release of the Jordan documentary.
Saw that.
It's going to be in June or July. It's now going to be, I think, here in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That'll get watched.
Yeah, I mean, if you like a lot of sites are doing it right now. If you've got some content, throw it. Just throw it out there.
Yeah.
If something's in the can, it's time to open the can. The rainy day fun. This is it. Go ahead and fire.
There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, I'll watch that. That'll be really, really good.
Yeah, no, it will be good. It'll be that's entertaining and all good there. So, again, NCAA Division I Council yesterday, they were going to do something because they weren't going to be the lone division that did not provide some sort of relief for spring athletes. It just was what it was. And here, look, a lot of opinions out there. There's no perfect solution. There's no perfect thing you can do. There's nothing that makes a ton of sense here as they do everything. Real quick, no winter sports are getting added eligibility, so basketball players, none of that's been released too. That they're not getting anything extra. But for spring sports, and look, baseball is very complicated. For the other ones, this is just a really good rule. Even you think about the golf and the tennis guys who aren't necessarily pro athletes, but can get that year back, can come back to school, can work on a graduate degree. So here are the rules. Everybody gets an extra year of eligibility. So Hayden Dunhurst is a freshman again next year from an eligibility standpoint. Tyler Keenan's a junior next year. Tim Elko's a junior next year. Austin Miller's a senior next year. He and Taylor Broadway get to actually come back. They don't have to be done if they choose. Here's the rubs, though. The schools can offer up to the same scholarship amount they were getting. So if a guy was on a 40% scholarship, he could be on a 40% scholarship again. This goes for seniors, by the way. Sorry, everybody else is however you do the pool. So an Austin Miller type, so if he was on 40% scholarship, he can get up to 40%. They also can give him 0 if they would like. They can't exceed it, but they can go up to it if they so wish. Seniors will not count against the roster limits next year. They will not count against the scholarship limits next year. So if you've got, say, 6 seniors, you can have 41 players on your roster. It's fair. It's all you can really do.
Sure. I've said this all along. The NCAA deserves a lot of criticism throughout the course of time. They're going to do everything they can to help the student athlete with this deal across the board.
Now, here's the pragmatic issue. These schools are not obligated to offer these guys roster spots. They're not obligated to offer them scholarship aid. I think you're going to have to really lax the transfer rule, which was probably coming anyway because it looks like baseball was going to get that one-time transfer back. You're about to see open season, in my opinion, on a lot of older guys from a transfer standpoint because, frankly, a lot of schools can't afford the extra players.
Right.
They can't do it. That is the negative here, is that it's putting tons of onus on the schools to pay for extra, to figure out how to manage roster sizes, how to manage all these different things, and there is a chaotic element that is about to come because of it.
And here's the dirty little secret that as we get closer to it, we'll start talking about. A lot of these schools can't commit to that stuff right now because they don't know what's going to happen in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what's going to happen with revenue streams in the fall. It's hard to – schools like Ole Miss, probably okay. Schools like Alabama, Auburn, but, man, you start getting into that next level of baseball program, UAB, Middle Tennessee, ULM, those kinds of programs. They're shoestring as it is. And if there is no football season, they can't afford to do anything. So there's no way to really get a lot of and I get it. I'm not criticizing the questions from people like, what does this mean? No way to know what it means.
Yeah. Again, as of now, SEC schools are we'll pay it and we'll figure it out for the most part. TCU was the main school that was mentioned in D1 baseball story this week. And it's because I think Schlossnagle is supposed to have like 5 or 6 redshirt seniors on his roster, and trying to figure out what you do with those guys. Do they decide to come back? This gives juniors a little bit of leverage if they choose to come back to play the game, and they would do that because the draft is so screwed up right now. There could be as few as 5 rounds of the draft. There could be more than that, but it sounds somewhere around there right now. 5 or 10 is what I think.
Most baseball people think 10 at the absolute most, and if there's no season, it will be 5.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think too. And here's the catch, though. You avoid maxing out your signing bonus because of the way this thing's going, you can max out at $20,000 as a signing bonus, the maximum bonus anyone drafted outside the limited rounds can get this summer. So there's not like, hey, I'm going to get this guy as a free agent and then pay him $200,000. That's not doable. It's $20,000 from a signing bonus if you are not drafted in those hypothetical 5 rounds at this point. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of schools that are frankly probably panicking right now, trying to figure out what to do, how to do it. The SEC is the most immune, but they're not completely immune to that. They'll have some decisions to make too, especially probably in some other sports. Is my guess. So I don't know. This is one of those deals that's going to have to play out a little bit. We're going to have to see what happens as time goes on. But they made the right decision. That's what I'll say at this point. They definitely did. They made the right call. They did the thing that they should have done. And
They're going to do the student-athlete friendly thing across the board with this deal. They will. Look, I'm never going to be the guy that defends the NCAA, but they're going to handle this right. They're going to do what's in the best interest of the student-athlete across the board with all of this. They're going to try to help the schools. They're going to bend the rules. They're going to change the limits. They're going to do all of that stuff to try to figure it out. There does come a point with it where it's going to be, I feel sorry for them. I never thought I'd say that. If we get into a deal where in the fall there's no football, which means there's no high school football, how they handle like the next recruiting class, how all that stuff works. You talk about a nightmare. Trying to figure all that out from a numbers standpoint, from a money standpoint, from anything resembling a fairness standpoint is going to be really hard.
I think other than all your people most affected are your high school recruits because you're changing roster sizes right now. Baseball specifically. I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't know. But baseball specifically, you have the chance to be changing roster sizes, to have to cut more kids as time goes on. Because, look, I think this is only going to be a one-year rule. I don't think they're going to do this 4 or 5 year roster limit deal.
No, it's going to be 1 year.
So it's going to create, after this next year, it's going to create massive cuts across the board from a player standpoint. You're going to have to process more kids than you ever have before. There's some issues there. You're going to have to, if you're a high school junior, how many of those are actually getting signed? And some recruits end up getting cut here because of roster sizes, trying to predict guys that'll be around 3 or 4 years.
Do programs cut? There are going to be some programs, I'm telling you, if there's no football for a year, there are going to be some programs that have to say we're going to have to stop for a while.
I think they cut scholarships and stop paying the 11.7.
Could be,
happens. I think that's more of what happens.
Because there'll just be a walk-on program.
Because there'll be, look, this is a dirty little secret. There's lots of programs out there, not SEC, ACC, but there are a lot of programs out there that don't fulfill the 11.7. They have 6 scholarships, 4 scholarships, 8 scholarships, whatever your number is at that point. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. They're trying to do the best they can. Zach Kirksey had this thought on Twitter yesterday. I think I agree with him. He also mentioned that some highly touted high school kids might just go JUCO for a year now. It actually might end up helping the JUCO market where a kid goes, hey, I'll go JUCO, I'll stay a year, and then I'll try to go pro after a year of a JUCO. It's a little more of a Bryce Harper kind of deal. Obviously not at the level of talent as Bryce, but that sort of playing.
MLB could go from 5 rounds of a draft this year to 40 in a year. If you get back to normal. So a lot of guys will do that. That actually makes some sense for some guys. Go to a JUCO, play for a year, and then go from there.
It comes back to what we talk about with football and the transfer portal that, hey, if a kid's happy, he's probably staying.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I do think you're going to see some high-level, mid-major, low-major players jump to the bigger schools in this. I think you're about to see that a little bit. I think you're going to see, as much as baseball ever has, a bit of a free agent market with some top arms, maybe at some lower levels. Schools like you mentioned who maybe they go, hey, I don't know if I can fulfill this number.
Right.
I got this guy on an 85% scholarship. What do I do? Some of that kind of stuff. Maybe, your Ole Miss or your Florida goes, hey.
We'll take him.
Yeah, be happy to. Here's your scholarship.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Because I don't have to pay this guy. We'll do this. It all works out.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm fascinated with men's basketball. Do some programs go, we can't do 13 scholarships?
Are you I was not surprised they did not offer any kind of leniency to winter sports because the season basically finished.
They basically played.
Yeah.
If you do it, you have to do it across the board. So take Ole Miss, for example.
They were done.
And even if you offered another year to Breein Tyree, I don't think he's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? I think they handled this exactly right. I'll give them an A. NCAA was not prepared for a pandemic any more than anyone else was, and I think they handled this exactly right, and I think they'll handle what is to come in the fall exactly right, even though I know that they are kind of braced for some real backlash on some of it.
What do you think it's 5 rounds? Is your guess?
Today?
Yeah.
Okay, so today I'm, based on talking to people, pretty skeptical there's a season.
At all.
So I would say 5 rounds.
What's their cutoff? Because baseball plays 162 games. Could you play an 81-game season?
Well, that's what they're hoping to do.
Okay.
To do that, you've got to start the season by absolutely no later. So just Let's play it. We got 15 minutes? 10 minutes?
Yeah, 5 to 10.
Okay. You have to start no later than July 15 to pull that off.
Sure.
You talked to Mickey Calloway on Bourbon South.
I did.
He talked about 3 to 4 weeks of ramp up.
That's what he thought. He said 4 weeks would be perfect, but he realized that might not be doable.
So even if you make it 3, which is really stressing pitchers, 3 weeks gets you into you have to have everybody ready to go, ready to report and all that stuff at the end of June 25th-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
To do that, you've got to get everybody in. A lot of these players have gone back to the Dominican, back to where to their country. You're bringing in people from all over the place. You've got to test. You've got to do all that stuff. I just think it's going to be really hard. They think it's going to be really hard. They're coming up with all these different plans to play games in neutral sites, to play a lot of games in Southern California, to play a lot of games in domed stadiums. You could play games at Minute Maid in Houston. You could play games at the new Rangers Park, which has a retractable roof. There's things you can do. The players have signed off on playing all the way to Thanksgiving.
Okay.
But the question that everyone keeps coming back to is, what do you do the first time you have a positive test? I catch myself doing this. I don't know whether you do it. I watch a lot of old sports, and I was watching a Twins-Tigers game the other day. It was a playoff game in the Metrodome. And I noticed the pitcher, his last name was Baker, would go to his mouth all the time.
Yeah.
Goes to his mouth, throws the ball. Catcher catches the ball, throws the ball back to the pitcher. Pitcher throws the ball again after going to his mouth again. Ball gets hit to the second baseman. Second baseman fields the ball, throws to the first baseman. It's out. Throw the ball around the horn. Shortstop, second base, third base, back to the pitcher who throws it back. The umpire gets it, throws it out. One of those guys tests positive. Well, shit, now you got to go through the whole deal. I just don't think it's going to happen. I pray to God I'm wrong. I never wanted to be more wrong in my life.
I'm not really optimistic or pessimistic about it. I do feel like we're seeing a couple positive signs in the last 48 hours that we have a chance. Things are starting to at least kind of.
Well, I mean, the places where we have socially distanced, we flatten the curve.
Yeah.
Getting back to sports is getting away from social distancing.
Yeah.
And so if it's out there, and I'm sometimes maybe they're right. The people that are like, well, the heat's going to kill it. Okay, that makes it seasonal, which means when the heat fades in the fall, it comes back with a vengeance. So how does that work? I mean, I don't know that we know enough about it. But to answer your question, I mean, look, I'm hoping that we have tons of sports in July. I mean, believe me, nobody wants it more than me. But when people ask me rationally, what do you think? I don't like it. I don't like the chances of Major League Baseball on June the 15th going, yep, we're good. We're good. Let's roll. Because they don't want – I know this. They don't want to get started and have to shut it down. If they're going to shut it down, they just want to shut it down.
Which, frankly, because I think what's going to happen here. I mean, I judging just by what I kind of see, I feel like from a normal society standpoint, that's about the time that maybe we can start doing something. I don't know what.
Mid-June?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Whatever. Something. Starting to look normal.
My brother works for the Hartford. They have a medical expert that talked to them on a conference call, and he said that an optimistic scenario was returning to some form of, meaning their job, being able to travel and stuff like that again. June 15th was probably a best realistic case.
Yeah, so point being, at that point, baseball has the very difficult decision of, okay, society's sort of returning to normal. People are allowed domestic travel. The federal bans on stuff starting to come off. All those things. Do we chance it? Do we take the shot? Are we overly cautious, or are we not? And that's the question they're going to have. And I think that's the question they're going to have, frankly, as long as we don't run into some bomb of numbers here over the next 60 days.
Right.
I think that's where they are, and it's a very, very tough decision. I'm glad I'm not in the room.
I mean, today you would not be able to play games in New York. You wouldn't be able to play games in New Orleans. Like the Pels would have to play somewhere else. The Nets, the Knicks would have to play somewhere else. the teams in California would likely have to play somewhere else right now. And that might be completely different in June, July. I don't know. But you're right. Assuming that we flatten the curve and all of that stuff that we're talking about.
It's a level of caution question.
Through the month of April and May, and then is it worth risking it? I know for a fact from talking to baseball people, they don't want to start back and then have an outbreak where they have to shut it all down again. Because financially, if you're going to take a financial loss, it's obviously cheaper from a loss standpoint to just absorb the loss than it is to pump the money back into Florida and Arizona into your camps and to fly everybody in and all of that stuff and then have to shut it down again. They don't want to do that because at that point you're burning money.
So I don't know. We might continue this conversation here in a bit. Also, today we're also talking to Major Markow of Cathead Vodka about hand sanitizer and the like. So we got a segment with him coming up after Heather as well. They're doing great stuff there to just help out any way they can, as a lot of our sponsors are doing right now. I talked to some people at Blue Delta. They've had over 1 million masks be ordered from different people and different things, trying to produce those as quickly as possible. So everybody's just again all hands on deck, trying to do everything they can right now to assist in this effort. So we'll get to Heather in a minute. Before we do that, I'll tell you about Special Orthopedic Group. Right now, the big thing is they're open. Tupelo and Oxford locations are open. You can skip the ER for urgent ortho-related injuries at those two locations. They're offering virtual health telemedicine. Patients have direct access to all SOG physicians and nurse practitioners. Patients have 24-hour access to appointments at 662-767-4200 or SOGMS.com. No referral is needed, and walk-ins are welcome. Again, that's 662-767-4200.
We are also brought to you by Dead Soxy. Millions over the world have been impacted by these unusual events, and Dead Soxy hasn't been immune to the situation. Like the rest of the world, they're faced with some tough choices. People at Dead Soxy have decided that what they want to do is they don't want to cut costs, and they don't want to cut jobs. So what they're doing is they're cutting costs. They want to keep their employees intact, paid, and employed, and they're asking for people like us to help them. In the spirit of people helping people, they're running a first-of-its-kind support sale. What it is they've slashed their prices to $6, $9, and $11 a pair. You can go and absolutely load up your sock wardrobe for less than $100 at deadsoxy.com. There's no promo codes, any of that. Everything is just deeply slashed. $6, $9, $11 a pair. They're at deadsoxy.com. You can also go to nestandwild.com. You can sleep better with the Nest and Wild mattress. You can get a mattress without any human interaction here. They're all 1 foot thick. They're all 100% American made. We're going to throw in a podcast discount that makes it a deal you can't beat. Also, with Nest and Wild, they believe in their product so much that they're offering a 99-night trial on every mattress. Try it out. Sleep on it for 99 nights, and if you don't like it, you can return it. It's nestandwild.com. Order your mattress. Use the podcast code REBEL20. That's REBEL20. Get 20% off your purchase, and your mattress will arrive at your door in 3 to 5 days. We're also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust based in Madison, Mississippi, but they've got clients in multiple states, advisors in several states as well. Founded in 1997, Pinnacle Trust provides detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan that is built just for you. It's pintrust.com, PINN trust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fee.
234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com. We will now go get Heather McMahan on the line. So if you're in our live stream, just hang out for a minute, and we'll be right back. Heather McMahan joining us now on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. Heather, you already got us cracking up in our little pre-show there. I'm hearing your fiance trying to find anything to bet on right now. You know, on Twitter a couple weeks ago, you can pass this along to him. I was shown where you could just bet on the weather. If you have no sports or anything, you can just bet on the weather, whether it rains, sun, whatever you're going. You get some even odds. You can see how it goes.
Okay, I think honestly that's a genius idea at this point because the weather has been touch and go as well. Listen, my heart goes out to all these, guys out there who don't know how to hold a conversation, how to really look somebody else in the eye and make like human, connection unless they're talking about sports. So this is just, this has been, not only are we living in crazy, trying times, but for all the sports fans out there, my heart goes out to you because I live with an ecstatic sports fan to the point where I'm like, I have to look at my fiance during football season and go, honey, you're not the coach. These kids are 18 years old. No one's paying you for your input. Sit down and shut the hell up.
The Italian stallion. He's big. Is he more into college sports or pro sports?
Honestly, both. He went to Penn State, so that's, a very touchy subject right there.
Yeah, very touchy.
Very touchy. He is. I didn't even know. Can I be honest with you? Right off the gate, just so your listeners understand, like I didn't even know who Joe Paterno was. I'm an SEC gal, ACC kind of gal. I grew up. My family went to Georgia Tech. I went to Ole Miss. When I first started dating my fiance, he had a framed photo of Joe Paterno on his desk. I thought it was his grandpa, and I was like, oh, it's your granddad. I did. I had no idea. I said, oh, your grandpa is so cute. And he's like, no, that's Joe Pa. And I was like, yeah, your grandpa. He's like, no, Heather, it's Joe Paterno, the winningest coach of football. I was like, that means nothing to me, sir. I have no idea who you're talking about.
So good.
So, yeah.
So
Yeah.
So you had some fun last night, as you do every day, pretty much. You had fun with him on Instagram last night with your filters as he was sleeping. Did you tell him that's coming the next morning, or do you just let him figure that out for himself when he opens Instagram?
No, listen, Jeff is along for the ride.
Okay.
Before he used to get annoyed being a part of like the shtick, if you will, but now he's like, we'll go and cash the checks for me. So he's on board. Now he's like, whatever. No, but he, listen, it's so funny because I have realized in this like crazy trying time, women are truly just the stronger sex in the fact that because there are no sports, these men have been melting down. Jeff's had anxiety because he doesn't know what to do with his hands, because he doesn't know how to like be in a group chat and text his 15 other degenerate friends about, they bet on golf. Like who has time to do that? I'll tell you who. Jeff, my fiance. So he kind of lets me do my thing and I let him do his thing,
And now he has no thing. I know and I've handled this. I mean, I've covered sports for a living. I've handled this pretty well, the whole missing of sports things. But I catch myself. I mean, it's kind of like the meme that's out there where the guy says, "Okay, I finished Netflix. What's next?" I'm so used to sports being in the background. Turn on a baseball game. I'm not really dialed into a baseball game, but it's on in the background, and it's 3 hours. And at the end of that, it's time to kind of get ready for bed, or there's an NBA game that you kind of wait till the third, fourth quarter to get into it or whatnot. And all that stuff's gone. And you're right. I mean, I don't know what to do with all of my time. It feels like the days just drag on. And all I can think about is it too early to start drinking? I kind of keep moving up that. I keep moving that time up. Like yesterday, it was like 2:30, and I'm like, it's fine. I'll pour a beer.
Right. Right. Then you're like, let's do mimosas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is it Sunday? No, it's Wednesday. I see the way y'all feel about the sports, I feel about the Housewives. Truly, it's always kind of in the background. Is somebody getting in a fight in New York, or is it a New Jersey cast? That's just kind of how I feel. I'll tell you what, though. Now, listen. When people found out that I was coming on this podcast, they were literally like, Heather, this is amazing because you really, truly don't know anything about sports. I'm coming here for a little bit of education as well.
Okay.
See, when I went to Ole Miss, we had Coach O and then we had Coach Nut. And so we partied. You know what I mean? We partied. That's kind of what I majored in at Ole Miss. But I heard there's like, if y'all can kind of break down for me what's going on with this new coach. Because I got to be honest with you, I did like a light Google, and I feel like he's a bad boy. Tell me everything.
He certainly has a bad boy reputation from back in the day. He was at Tennessee. He left Tennessee sort of in the middle of the night after one season to take the job at USC, and he did a really good job at USC. But the AD got upset at him, and they fired him on a tarmac, and his career sort of stalled for a little while, and then He got hired at Alabama as the offensive coordinator for Nick Saban right after he had gone through, I guess, a divorce and whatnot. So he's in Tuscaloosa by himself, and whether deserved or not, who knows? I don't know. I can't be the one that says that. He sort of got the reputation as a bit of a playboy. He's a good-looking guy, sharp dressed. Comes off the bus with his aviators, and his suit game is very good. And so he kind of got that reputation. He left Alabama sort of right before the national championship game, and then he goes to FAU, and all he did was win there. And we haven't had a whole lot of interaction with him here. And then, as you know, football season has basically been postponed till some undetermined time. And so this was supposed to be the first spring where we got to kind of be around him and see what they were like from a practice standpoint, and how he ran his program, and how he recruited, and how he interacted with media and players and coaches. And we hadn't gotten to see any of that because, like we just talked about, there is no football right now.
Right. Well, I had heard some people were like, listen, he worked for Nick Saban. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to know exactly what's going on. He's a Saban guy. I mean, to me, honestly, just being an outsider looking in, like, I took a Soul Cycle class next to Charlize Theron, like, once in my life. Does not mean I'm going to win an Oscar. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to really keep everybody's expectations super low. Because I feel like, at being an Ole Miss fan, it's like being in Louis. So what's going on if all these high schoolers can't finish the season? So can they get recruited, or how does that work?
These are great questions. One of the questions is what happens if there, if worst case happens and there is. Can you imagine that the Italian Stallion's going to struggle with this? So don't let him listen to this part. I mean,
Okay.
What happens if there is no football season? What happens? Because the thing that no one even talks about, if there's no football season, there's no high school football season. So all those kids who are playing, and they want the scouts to see them and stuff, the college coaches to see them, there's nothing to see.
Right. But the draft has still been going on, correct? Because we keep getting updates that, like, somebody's left the Falcons and gone to the Bears or something like that. They're still trading players in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, we're still going to have the draft, but we're not. The draft's going to be less of a dog and pony show, and it's now going to be sort of like watching the NFL on Skype, I guess, or on Zoom.
Right.
And so we'll see what that looks like, and they're going to try to drag that out over like 17 days so that they have some programming. I don't know how they'll do the draft and all that, but yeah, the NFL is going to have its draft, but they're not going to. They were going to have the big dog and pony show in Las Vegas where they were going to have all the top players, the college players out there, where they would take them out on a boat to the fountain in the middle of Caesar's Palace or whatnot, and all that's been canceled.
Right,
so
because that seems necessary. That seems real necessary. Put them on a boat in the middle of a fountain in Vegas. I'm sure they're thrilled about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's done. So now it's just going to be everything via Zoom and Skype and FaceTime and whatever else. I mean, it's kind of like my kids in classes now. I walk into one of their rooms and they're all like 30 screens, these Zoom screens, and none of them are listening to the teachers because they're all just like talking to each other because they haven't seen each other in weeks now.
Can I just throw this out there? Not that I'm like a huge conspiracy theorist, but it seems to me that Zoom is the only one winning during this COVID-19 shutdown. So I'm just going to say, I keep one eye open on the CEO of Zoom. That's all I'm saying. I'm not sleeping on them. There's something that seems a little sketchy about this whole Zoom software company, okay? Because I didn't know what Zoom was, and now all of a sudden I have to use it for everything. So all I'm saying is I'm just, I'm doing my research.
Have you done a Zoom happy hour yet?
Oh, of course I've done a Zoom happy hour. I haven't done anything like Zoom educational, but for sure I've done a Zoom happy hour. My favorite thing is the videos that are going viral right now of people who don't realize that they're on Zoom, like the video Zoom, and then they're either like on the toilet, or there was one guy in a law class who was just naked, and everybody, like his law professor and all the other people in the class, like, Kevin, you have no pants on. We can see you. Like, to me, that makes me so happy and filled with joy.
Obviously, so much of what you've got going on is stream of consciousness throughout the day. But I mean, how much of it's planned? How much of it's just, hey, off the cuff? This is what I'm thinking right now. How much of it is, hey, this is a thing that I saw last night and I want to get this out there? I mean, what sort of goes into your day of stories?
Honestly, it's stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
So, as a stand-up, my job, it's like go out into the world, see things that are funny, observe them, and like put my own twist on them. So kind of how everything got started was when Instagram stories became a thing. I had just moved home, literally living back home in Atlanta with my mom. And I just started to put up things that organically made me laugh and giggle. And I was like, surely if I'm laughing, somebody else can find this funny. And it just took off like wildfire. So every day I'm just kind of going out in the world, either stirring the pot a little bit, getting into trouble myself. It's just really kind of like in the moment. It's not pre-planned, it's just truly like day in the life of Heather. How people and why people tune in, I'm still fascinated by.
How is your stress acne coming along?
It's terrible. I don't know what's happened. I look like a 13-year-old boy who just came home from summer camp. I mean, I truly don't know what's happening. My face is melting. I've got 2 eyelashes left. For all your listeners, yes, a lot of women do not have real eyelashes. I've got 2 eyelashes left, holding on like a climber on the side of Everest. I mean, it's not great. I mean, give me maybe 3 more weeks. You'll see I'm not naturally a blonde. It's going to be just a true shit show. So that's where we're at.
So how were the pseudo homemade margaritas last night? You pick up mix from the Mexican restaurant. You have to get tequila out of a mason jar and then Lysol it. How did we do?
We did great. Okay. I mean, listen, the fact that I'm up at 9 o'clock for a podcast I'm doing great, feeling like a champ. I'll tell you what, I live in New York, and we got out 3 weeks ago just before kind of all the craziness hit. And I got to be honest with you, nothing makes me happier than being back in the South. We didn't have any tequila, but our Mexican joint last night gave us the mix. So I just make 2 phone calls to my godmother 3 doors down, and she sends over a full thing of Casamigos high-grade tequila in a mason jar. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is Southern hospitality. Yeah. This is how I'm going to literally survive this pandemic.
So we have a couple of questions in our live stream on YouTube. The first one is, did you have to throw away the teddy bear last night?
The teddy bear? Oh, yeah. I did have to throw away the teddy bear. There was a situation. My nephew's been here, a.k.a. my sister's 4-year-old French bulldog, and he's got this teddy bear. He humped it. I don't know about y'all, but this lockdown's made everybody just extra sexual and sensual. So he's been humping this teddy bear all night, and it just got to the point where we were all trying to watch season 3 of Ozark, and I had to look at him and go, Bronson, you got to cut it out. I'm uncomfortable. So, yeah, we threw away the teddy bear. Great question.
All right, the other one is but the women that were coming to see your tour were getting so drunk that you had to get on Instagram and ask them to stop.
But people were showing up to some of the shows so drunk that like one woman just like threw up on herself on the front row. We've had other people like start fights. I mean, it's been crazy. I've been doing comedy for years, professionally for the last like 10 years. And it was kind of wild. I think a lot of people didn't understand, like, because you see me on Instagram doesn't mean that I'm not a professional performer. So I think a lot of these women just were like excited to get out of the house and take their top off. I'm like, you can take your top off at my show, but just make sure you don't have so many wine coolers that you don't know where you are. I want everybody to enjoy the show. So, I felt like I'm, was sort of doing my job that I put out a safety PSA, but everybody settled down after I told them they got to take it down a notch. You know what I'm saying? This isn't like a UFC fight in Vegas.
What is kind of the status of the tour right now? Do you have any idea when things can restart? And then how's the wedding situation coming? It's Italy in the fall, and that might seem like a problem right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful that I've got a great team around me. But we postponed the tour. I was supposed to be out on the road actually next week, so we are going out on the road in June, and we rescheduled for June, July, and August, and then. The wedding's supposed to be at the end of September in Tuscany. I am so grateful right now that I did not go ahead and plan that early summer wedding for like Memorial Day. I mean, we have Jeff has that family in Italy, and everybody's doing okay, but we're just going to kind of roll with the punches. I mean, does anybody know what even day of the week it is? I don't even feel like a bride. Everyone's like, oh my God, your wedding's this year. I'm like, y'all, 2020 has been a hot dumpster fire. So if I got to get married in like a Burger King parking lot, I'll do it. At this point, I'm not holding my breath. I'm just kind of going with the flow. But the tour is still on. And that's the good thing about being in entertainment. I'm sure once we get through this and get out on the other side, everyone's still going to want to go out and, laugh and be together again. So we're still doing it. Being locked up with my sister and a horny French bulldog and my fiance and my mom in Atlanta. I got like 6 new hours worth of material.
Yeah. Your barefoot contessa thing. I've watched that now about 150 times, I think, give or take 5. That's
Right.
I mean, I'm not trying to blow sunshine. That is spot freaking on. How long did you have to like refine that? Because I swear to you, I thought it was Ina Garten at first. I mean, I thought at first it was Ina Garten making fun of herself.
You know, I came up, I've been in characters forever because I always wanted to do like SNL. And it's really funny. I found the wig at a wig shop like 2 years ago and I put it on. And I just like, as soon as I put that wig on and the bangs brushed the top of my forehead, I was like, this is she. I am her. We are one. I just got into it. I mean, Ina Garten is so iconic. My mom's a chef and, you know, she's just so revered and loved in that, you know, food world.
Yeah.
But everything about her, she's like, just whip something up in the pantry. Like, who has just truffle salt and, you know, like peppers from Mallorca? Like, nobody just has that in their pantry. And that's what I love about her. And she's always like, isn't that easy? You're like, no, Ina, that's not easy. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, it was just for 3.5 minutes, there were so many. It was kind of like the movie Christmas Vacation, where every time you watch it, you see something new that's just brilliantly funny. And there's just so many little things. Like Jeffrey clearly got the hell out of there and went over to Fire Island. He's like, I'm not going to be quarantined with Ina. And the the quarantini with the pill. That's the part that, oh, there's the big one. That cracks me up every single time. It's fantastic.
Well, and also like a double layer to the Fire Island joke is her sweet husband, Jeffrey. She's been with him for 40 years. He's like the kindest. They really, truly are in love. But I always put a little gay twist on it. Fire Island's like it's Boys Town in New York. And so all of my friends are like, you know, her husband, Jeffrey's always hanging out with like the florist and all of her gay BFFs. So I just love the joke that like he just, you know, chose to stay on Fire Island with the boys instead of coming home and eating chicken with her. You know, I just love it. I love it.
So little flashbacks for you a little bit. You're quarantined in Atlanta. Obviously, you know, moved home in there for a little while years ago. Just kind of pick right back up in a way.
Oh yeah, honestly, you know, when you're an adult, the whole thing is you move away from home. You find yourself. I moved away from home, and then I immediately wanted to come right back. I thrive living in my parents' house. I truly do. I mean, Jeff has been pressure washing basically all the neighbors' homes too, because I think he just doesn't want to have human interaction with any of us in the house. So it's the way that he deals with his anxiety. So, I mean, I'm having a great time. It's like my mom's cooking. I don't have to cook. You know what I mean? I get my laundry done. The joke's on everybody else who wants to move out of their parents. I'm telling you, go home for a week and then report back. As long as they'll let you drink, you're going to live your best life.
You know, in all seriousness for a minute, and I know you're being serious, but I'm curious, do you, in a time like this, I mean, we talk about how we forget what day it is, and hell, we're still in effing March. I mean, I realize April starts tomorrow, and April's going to be the longest month in the history of humanity. People are anxious.
Period.
Yeah, people are anxious. People are worried about their money. People are worried about their careers. They're worried about their kids. Like my kids, my 13-year-old son last night, who never gets like emotional about stuff, kind of broke down a little bit. You start to see some of that. You know, people are dealing with a lot of shit, right? I mean, do you sort of feel a responsibility to, hey, I've got to keep entertaining people. I got to keep trying to keep it light, make people laugh, make people turn tears of sadness into some tears of laughter. Is that a pressure that you feel a little bit?
You know, it's not a pressure. I think, you know, when you're in comedy, we always take the darkest moments and find the funny in them. A lot of the last year, what I've been talking about on my stand-up tour is kind of watching my dad die of cancer. And it's very relatable for people, and we're all in this together. So that's truly, like, when you're really writing good jokes, is because you're coming from a place of honesty and authenticity and talking about your experience. So what I think has been really wild is there's some days, like, I've been feeling the same anxiety and the same, you know, you just don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. I want to just tell everybody this, turn off the news. It's not getting better right now, so just turn it off. Finally, I made a rule in our house. I was like, guys, every day at 5 o'clock, I'd pour my glass of wine, and then we'd watch the news, and I would just go crazy. So there's nothing we can control right now. I do feel a sense of just honestly giggling through it, because that's the way I know how to deal with my anxiety. You know, it's cathartic for me to very openly joke and talk about the things that make us uncomfortable. But for sure, just keep the news off. It's going to keep us sane. And like, we're living in some wild times. Who would have thought that the entire year of 2020 would have been a true dumpster fire of a year? I mean, we started off with a bang, and it's like, where's it going to go? I feel for your son, because trust me, I've been having those moments. It's been like an up and down roller coaster, and sometimes my fans know if I go quiet on Instagram for like 2 hours, call the police. I always told them that. I'm like, if you haven't heard from me in like 2 hours, I've probably been abducted. So they've been checking in. So it's a cute little loving relationship we have back and forth.
Yeah.
How are y'all doing? How are you hanging in there?
Like you said, doing this podcast is the only thing that makes me realize what day it is. Because I was telling the story yesterday. It was something around the house on Saturday, and they said, "Yeah, I guess I could do that. It's Saturday." And it was like, "What the hell difference does it make? What tomorrow, Monday? It's all the same thing at this point."
Right.
So no, I mean it's completely different, because like I said, we filled an hour and 30 minutes of a podcast every day with sports talk for half of it at least, and now it's okay. Well, that's gone. What are we doing? So we're showing range. We had Harlan Coben, the author, on yesterday, talking to you today. We're going to talk to Cathead Vodka about some hand sanitizer. I mean, we're all over the place right now.
But listen, this is where we get scrappy and creative. I was supposed to go out and finish this farewell tour through the summer, and now I'm like, can I go back out and do the same material? Some of it, sure, but I feel like I have to obviously talk about the human experience. You can't go out there in front of, thousands of people in June and not talk about being locked up with your family. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to kind of expose what you've been going through, and it's definitely been a wild ride, but my biggest thing for everybody is just don't watch the news. It's making us crazy, truly. And the crazy thing was too, just don't do it. And I was traveling abroad in Southeast Asia in January when all of this popped up. And when I was over in Asia, everyone kept emailing me, Heather, come home. Heather, don't get coronavirus. I'm like, the irony that I didn't get it in Asia, but you come back in your own backyard, you got to be worried about is what's kind of crazy for me to wrap my head around right now.
Yeah, last night my wife said she's still working, and she came back and she said, let's watch the news. And I had not turned it on all day. I just got through walking the dogs for an hour, and I was listening to podcasts, and I checked Twitter when I was walking, and I checked Twitter, and I saw the little live box. Trump was having his daily press thingy that he does. And I was like, I tempted for almost 1 second, Heather. I almost hit it to see, what do they say? And then I'm like, nope. And I got back into my podcast, and I'm walking around, and I get back, and she's like, let's watch the news. And so we flipped to the ABC, whatever it's called, Nightly News or World News Tonight or whatever the hell. And it's that David Muir, who has the greatest head of hair in the world. I have no hair. I'm very jealous.
Ever, period.
Yeah. And David Muir with this very dramatic voice tonight. And I'm like, from the very get-go, I'm like, God, he's so dramatic. Stop. And she goes, I like him a lot. I'm like, I hate him. And it just immediately there's this clash, and I'm like, I can't. I'm not doing this all night. We watched it, and at 6 o'clock, I'm like, that's it. I'm done. Give me America's Got Talent or Voice or some. I guess The Voice came on. I'm like, thank God. And normally I would be like, I'm not watching that. I'm like, no, I'll watch The Voice. It's weird. It just everything is so different. And I've got two teenage girls. One's a freshman in college, and one who's a junior in high school. And they come down, and they're like, am I going to have to transfer? Am I going to have a senior year? One of them's like, I want to set up my senior pictures. And I'm like, well, who the hell? I mean, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, are you even going to have a senior year? I mean, I hate that. I think that stuff, but it just marinates in you.
Yeah, it does. And, I kind of, as an entertainer, we kind of ride that fine line of, during this time, how much has to be serious and how much has to be silly and goofy. And I'm like, for me, I just feel like I have to be the levity, right? I just have to be goofy and put on wigs and do impressions and do all those things, because right now I'm staying in my lane. The one thing I know I'm good at is giggling and making people laugh. So I just got to stay focused on that. You know what I mean? I'm not a health worker. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a scientist. So I'm just trying to really focus on what I know, what to do and be helpful. And also I feel like you're just going to have to get out a Polaroid camera and start taking some photos for your kids in the garage. Like we're just all going to have to get creative. Senior portraits are going to be, by the fireplace. Like there's just nothing else to do. We got to get creative. But you know what is actually funny? The only news I will watch, I don't know if y'all have been checking this out, but Governor Cuomo and his brother Andrew Cuomo, who's on the news, Chris Cuomo, who's on the news, and Governor Andrew Cuomo, they cannot stand each other. Have y'all seen these videos of them going back and forth?
At first I thought it was an act, and now I don't think they like each other.
No. They can't stand each other. I mean, my sister and I watched it together, and we looked at each other and said, "Oh, this is like when we're in a tiff. This is how we would fight on national television." You know what I mean? It's a perfect amount of cattiness. That is what's keeping me alive. I love Chris Cuomo. It's like I'm getting a good bit of news, but then I'm also watching him completely have a family meltdown, and that's just what we need to stay alive right now. Truly, that's authentic to me.
You know, you will have a ton of material in the fall between what I hope is the aftermath of this crazy crap and then a presidential election between Trump and Biden, where I'm not convinced that either of them are completely there.
Trained to do the job. I'm with you. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I mean, politics aside, I'm a moderate, but I was like, I would vote for Andrew Cuomo in a heartbeat. He's been holding it down, putting his foot down. He's like the perfect mix of, letting people know what's happening. This is just wild times we're living in. But, I guess it's time to reflect. Like, I'm trying to find the silver lining in it. You know what I mean?
You found one yet?
Not yet. Not just yet. I'm working on it. I've written a couple of things down, but nothing's really stuck out yet.
Just kind of curious. I mean, we're dancing around, mental health and different things. You mentioned coming back to Atlanta, whatever. But when you're in LA and it took a little while and you end up coming back, and that's kind of when you made it work. Were there moments where it went, hey, what the hell am I doing? Should I be doing something else? I mean, just from a kind of sticking to it and trying to find lane and figure out what you're going to do with your life. What was kind of the later stages of that LA experience like?
Well, listen, LA's funny. It's one of those towns. I always talk about the LA invite. The LA invite is basically where, somebody comes up to you and they say, hey, I love your work, or let's get together, let's grab lunch. And then you say, oh, yeah, great. How does next Thursday work? And then they're shocked that you actually followed through with it. They're like, oh, no, I didn't actually want to go to lunch. So it's funny living at New York and LA. LA is all talk. New Yorkers get things done. But it wasn't truly until I came back to Atlanta and I started doing Instagram stories and living authentically, at my mom's house. And I'm just kind of talking about my new normal, which was moving home after my dad passed. That's when my career really took off. Mm-hmm. And for me, there was no other road to take. I mean, ask any of my friends from Ole Miss. They're like, oh, no, Heather said she was going to do comedy. She was going to be an actor. Like, that's just what she was going to do. And so for me, I've said maybe I could translate this into sales. Like, I guess every comedian is sort of selling something. So I looked at maybe pharmaceutical sales for a hot second. And then the thought of like having to push Viagra at a doctor's office just, sucked my soul out of my body. So I just, the irony of it is, though, I applied to be a Delta flight attendant because I thought, hey, at least maybe I can travel the world. I got rejected from the program. And then at my last show at Christmas in Seattle, I did this big giveaway with Delta. So now they're one of the sponsors of the tour. So it's a very full circle moment for me to say, hey, they didn't want me as a flight attendant, but now they'll, help sponsor the tour. It's crazy.
What a really blessing crazy. What a blessing that was, though, right? I mean, you applied for something that had they taken you, you would have been in their program, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I always say this. If I was, people ask me sometimes like, Heather, will you come and like do motivational speaking? I'm like, listen, I've never influenced anybody for good, only evil. So I don't know if I'm like the best motivator, but I always say stay in your lane. Like find one good thing, whatever you're good at, and just focus and be hyper-focused on it. And so I just kind of zoned in. And trust me, my parents were like, you're almost 30. Are you going to get a job? And I was like, eventually. And now we're touring the world, so it's crazy. Just gotta stick with it.
What is the prep of a 90-minute stand-up routine? Because I mean, I got to think it's pretty much similar every night. But I mean, we talk in public, so nothing like that. But I mean, it's going to change a little bit. But I mean, do you have like crazy outlines? What does this look like?
No, I mean, this is what I always say. People are like, "How do you do stand-up? How does a tax accountant look at someone's finances and not have them sent directly to jail?" Like, I don't know how anybody does anything, but again, like I said, I stay in my lane. The prep though for a 90-minute show is, it's funny. A lot of the fans are like, Heather, come drink with us before the show. I'm like, you guys, this is my job. Like, I don't drink like on, I'll have a glass of wine on stage, but I'm like, this is my professional job. So I don't know, I sometimes reference my notes, but whenever I go to a new city, I try and do like, at the top of the show, like 10 minutes of roasting that city. And then, we tell stories and tell jokes. It's in my bones right now. Like I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night sweating because I'm like, think I'm late for a show. I've just done this so many times now. I'm like, all right, it's like clockwork.
What's your favorite city?
My favorite city.
Because you've seen the world now. What's the place? Maybe here's a better question. What's the city that most surprised you?
I would say the Pacific Northwest, like Portland and Seattle. I had such great shows there. And, I knew the South was like mostly my demographic, but performing in Seattle and Portland, and they were like thanking me for coming there. I'm like, this is Seattle and Portland. You guys are acting like this is Knoxville, Tennessee, like a small town. Like I'm thrilled y'all came out. But I will say my favorite state to perform in is Tennessee. All of the shows that I did, I don't know what it is about the people from Tennessee, but they are so just loving and warm. And I'm bummed. I was supposed to headline the Nashville Comedy Festival this year with Bert Kreischer and Bill Burr, Whitney Cummings, and that got pushed to September. So, but I was really looking forward to that, because to perform in some place like Nashville at the Ryman Theater, like an iconic theater with all these other comics who I've just adored forever, is just, wow. I mean, it takes my breath away just talking about it.
There's a question in the live stream here. Is there a celebrity you've met that had you a little awestruck? I mean, we're around athletes so much that never does anything for us. But in your profession,
right,
there's somebody that kind of took you back a little bit when you met them.
Yeah, and I don't know if your listeners will necessarily know who this is, but Joan Rivers, the late great Joan Rivers, who was a very famous female comic and who paved the way for what I do now. She was just so iconic. I got to meet her at some shows in New York. And then when I moved to LA, I ran into her at dinner one night, and I went up to her table and I said, Miss Rivers, I just want you to understand, like, you're the reason why I do comedy. And she grabbed my hand and looked me in my eyes and said, honey, you got chutzpah and the balls to even come up to my table. You're going to make it. I can just tell you're going to make it. And it was in that moment that I was like, I have to continue to do this. So truly, like, I owe everything in my career to her. She was just an idol and an icon to me. But trust me, I worked at a gym in West Hollywood. So I have met every celebrity you could ever imagine. Like, you name them, I've met them, and I'm not impressed. Like, everybody sweats just like we do.
Are you ready at all to get back to New York even a little bit?
No, not at all.
Period.
No.
Okay.
Listen, I not even in the sense of like what's going on there, but New York for me, I love New York. New Yorkers get things done, but I moving back to the South, like seeing that people live, you can get in your car and go to Trader Joe's. You don't have to get on the subway and schlep 55 bags to and from the grocery store. New York's fun when you're in your early 20s and you have the energy to do it. But now I'm like in my 30s and I take 2 stops on the subway and I have to come home, take a Xanax and put on a weighted blanket. Like, I'm just exhausted. Mentally, it's too much all the time.
Will this change when this is over? Will this change the way you interact with people? I mean, people, I would think before this, wanted to come up to you and they want to shake your hand and they want to touch you and they want to hug you and tell you what you mean to them and all of that stuff. Will you be a little more paranoid about all of that kind of thing now?
Listen, I'm a Pisces. It's in my DNA to like be sensitive and want to hug and all that. Listen, I don't know how this is going to change me, because honestly, at one of my shows, a woman who was drunk, who was a nurse, showed up with a B12 shot and she just pulled it out of her purse and I let her give it to me.
Oh, oh my God.
Looking back, that was a terrible idea. It could have been black tar heroin for all we know. My tour producer, Chris, was like, he's like, Heather, what just happened? I was like, that woman was a nurse and the needle looks fine. Like, she pulled it out of a medical kit. But he was like, are you an idiot? And she had a White Claw in one hand and a B12 shot in the other hand. And I was like so tired, I just let her do it. I was like, it's fine. And then, of course, the rest of the night I was paranoid, thinking she just poisoned me. But so I've really been living on the edge with human interaction and connection. So I don't know how this is going to change me. Yeah, I really don't.
I told.
How do y'all feel?
I don't know. It's funny. I was watching. I said this at the beginning of the show, so I'll use a different story. I was watching an old basketball game, actually a baseball game, and the pitcher between pitches kept going to his mouth, right, to get a better grip on the ball. And I started thinking about, okay, so every time you throw that ball, and I started thinking about quarterbacks in football and how many quarterbacks in football before every snap, lick their fingers. And so the stuff's all over the ball, and the ball gets handed to the running back, who after the play hands it to the referee, who throws it to the ball boy, who throws it to another ball boy. And I'm just thinking, can will there have to be now a disinfectant person that sprays each ball down between each play? I mean, how do we do all that? I've caught myself thinking about it so much more than I would have ever thought about it before.
Oh, no, it's definitely shooken me to my core just about how, I mean, honestly, filthy as humans we are. I mean, I think about all the times that, like, I'm running around or I'm like somewhere, I'm not washing my hands or doing this or that. I will say, as somebody who's a pro airline traveler, because I fly probably 300 days out of the year, I have always been that girl who brings like her Lysol wipes and wipes things down. So for me, I'm really excited to see in aviation, once we get back to flying, how this is going to change the game. When we flew from New York to Atlanta 3 weeks ago, it was just kind of like at the very beginning stages of us, you know, the rumors that we were going to be in quarantine and lockdown. And I was wiping everything down, and the flight attendant leaned over to me and she's like, "Girl, you clearly are a professional flyer," because we just can't risk it. You know what I mean? When you're on the road for your job, you just can't risk anything.
Yeah.
So this will be really, I mean, I've seen people do filthy things on airplanes, like go into the laboratory with no shoes on, put their feet up on the bulkhead, clip their toenails in the seat next to you. I swear to God, if it's been done and it's disgusting, I've witnessed it. So I'm hoping that as a whole, as a community, especially in the airports, we're all going to, like, you know, maybe respect each other's space better. Maybe that's a silver lining. I don't know. I'm really grasping at straws here.
No, that will be interesting to see if people behave better in public settings now. That,
right?
You know, I don't know. It's still so fresh and new that I don't know. It's hard for me to, like you said, it's kind of hard for me to sort of wrap my head around what it's going to look like when we get to the other side of this. I mean, there's a part of me that, like, we had this debate. Me and some guys had a debate about, you know, when they give you the all clear to say go to games again. Are you going to be comfortable?
Are you going to want to go?
Yeah, are you going to want to go?
Right.
Are you going to want to watch on tele? Yeah, we all want to watch. I get that. But are you going to be comfortable going to Bryant Denny or Jordan Hare or Vaught Hemingway or whatever, knowing that there's all these people around you now that you don't know who's had what or who's clean or who's not clean? And, you know, are you going to want to sit in an enclosed space with a bunch of people? And when someone coughs or sneezes, are you going to freak out? I mean, all that stuff's going to happen, and everybody's going to have different reactions to it.
Oh, 100%. Also, I feel bad for wrestlers. You know, I was never a UFC fighting kind of gal, but like, what's UFC going to do? Are they done forever? That kind of physical contact?
Because they're bleeding and stuff. I mean, it's
Right. Right. I mean, I'm sure like hepatitis was a bigger concern for them, you know, but I'm just like, damn, this is crazy.
Window or aisle seat, and what's the airline cocktail of choice when you're needing a drink on the plane?
Okay, always aisle. I'm a tall gal, 5'10". I like to be able to stretch my legs out. Okay, I divvy it up. I'm old school. I like a ginger ale, and then I get an ice cold Chardonnay. Okay. So I get 2 drinks. I just like to maximize my sugar intake with some crisp white wine and a ginger ale. I basically make like my own really shitty sweet spritzer on the flight is what I do. What's your drink of choice on a plane?
Oh, God. Honestly, I'm going to get whatever, as long as it's just nothing, as long as it's something at all drinkable. I just want bourbon on the rocks. I just want a cup of ice, and I want to pour bourbon in it, and I want to move on with my day.
Yeah.
Is it because you're a nervous flyer, or you're just,
no,
you know,
I can't sleep on a plane, but I have no nerves on a plane. I just like bourbon, so whatever. It's just an option, and it's $5. I'll pay cash. It's all good. It's all fine.
I love that. I just like bourbon.
Yeah, whatever. It's an option, so why not?
See, I don't like bourbon because I went to Ole Miss and I drank too much of it, and I can't even smell the stuff anymore. Can't even look at brown liquor.
My wife's the exact same way. She can't even. I never have to worry about her drinking my bourbon.
Yeah.
No
never.
chance. Yeah, she's not going to touch it.
No chance. Yeah, I remember I used to mix like Diet Dr. Pepper and Jack Daniels or something, and I just, even the thought of it, like a whiff of it, makes me sort of dry heave. I just can't. I can't do it.
I will say that's just so you know as you move forward, that is not bourbon. So you could branch out and try different things. I've caught myself going from in the last 3 weeks, going from bourbon to just pouring tequila in a glass and squeezing a lime. I mean, I've gone from making a margarita to just give me the tequila. It's kind of like I'm freebasing at this point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I hear you on that. Yeah, you know what? And I have one of those wine glasses too that it's a giant goblet. So, you don't feel bad because you never have to refill it. But that's just called alcoholism. And I'm sure my therapist might say something about it. But I'm like, listen, Sheila, I don't need your judgment right now because I'm just trying to get by. Okay?
Yeah, there's some markets that are going to do well when this is over. Divorce attorneys, alcohol rehabilitation centers. I mean, there's some people that are going to benefit from this. So there's your silver lining. I mean, all those people are going to have just people lined up.
Yeah, really, truly. And I mean, I've been trying to really get that. I'm using the Calm app, just something to take my mind off things. And then at once, like you said earlier, it's my drinking hour just keeps getting earlier and earlier. One of my best friends from Ole Miss, shout out to Elizabeth Howard. She's a huge fan of this podcast. She called me yesterday and she's like, well, I found some bread and butter pickles and I made a pickle martini. And she's like, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to use dill pickles, but I'm using sweet pickles. I'm like, you just took random pickle brine and mixed it with some Tito's vodka. She's like, you bet your ass I did.
Yep.
We're just trying to be creative and use whatever we got at this point.
So how you killing the day? Last thing. What are you doing today?
Well, listen, apparently we've started a military boot camp at my house. I wouldn't even get lunch until I exercise. My mom took one look at us the other day and said, you're all sweating and putting on weight. So apparently we have to exercise now, which I'm not really a fan of exercise. I've never gotten a runner's high. I usually get a cheesecake high. So I guess I'll lace up my sneakers, do a couple miles, and then basically just sit in my room and cry the rest of the day and drink Chardonnay. So that's where I'm at. How about you guys?
I've got to watch my kid for a while today. My wife has to go to work for a little bit, so I'll get to finish the podcast. Okay. I get to go chase a 4-year-old all over either the house or the neighborhood, depending on the rain right now, because I think we're going to get storms today. So yeah, it's not a good day for that because there'll probably a lot of Disney movies, some things along those lines. I'll get sick of Elsa at some point today. It's going to be an inside day, I think.
Yeah, my plans are really complicated today, Heather. I'm talking to my accountant at 10:30, and then I'm going to get on the Peloton, and the Peloton eats up bandwidth, which it'll come down to who's yelling at each other first about the internet. Can someone please stop streaming for 45 minutes or whatnot? And then at that point, I can sort of feel it coming today. My post recovery drink off the Peloton will be beer, and it'll just go from there. I anticipate this is a day when my wife comes back from work at about 5 o'clock, and she's going to look at me and say, "What have you done?" I'm going to say, "Nah, very little, and this is my 4th beer, and leave me alone."
Right. Listen, I've always said this, be authentic, live your truth. So even if that means drinking an ice cold beer while you're doing a Peloton, live your life. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're in this together. It's a community. We're all just trying to get by. So I say, live your dreams, live your best life. And hey, the Olympics got pushed to 2021. So if you start training now, we could maybe qualify.
That's true.
That's all I'm saying.
That's true. Set a goal. You're awesome. Thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, and shout out to all the Ole Miss fans, hotty toddy, and y'all keep crushing it.
Right. Thanks, Heather. Have a good day.
All right. Bye, guys.
It was Heather McMahan here on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline.
We'll just shut down the show now. We're not topping that, so done.
You're good for the day now?
Yeah, she is fantastic. She is so talented.
Yeah,
that was not disappointing.
No. I mean, I was hopeful we could get that one done. I felt good about it. I knew a couple of people went, yeah, I think we can probably make that happen. So I appreciate her for getting back with us, scheduling that. Again, it's one of we mentioned silver linings and positives. I mean, everybody's kind of just sitting at home right now, so there is more of a chance on getting some people that typically would be busier than we could probably make happen. So thanks for that time. We'll
I've got some stuff out. I think we'll have some. I do think the summer will be full of some pretty decent guests.
Yeah.
Actually, I think people are starting to get bored.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Well, we'll go talk a little cat head hand sanitizer in a second. But we did tell you about Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com. Go to the top of the page. It's how to support Oxford during COVID-19. You get a list of all the restaurants, the services offered for delivery and carry out, curbside delivery, and the like. You can also see how to help hospitality employees and more there. Again, visit oxfordms.com.
The podcast is also brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. Eventually, this will be over, and you're going to want to get out You're going to want to go someplace new. You're going to want to get away from your house, get away from maybe your family. Who knows? You're going to want to get away. And you can do that by getting in touch with John. He's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values, unique benefits simply not available to other travelers. You give him a call, you give him some parameters, you give him a budget, and then you sit back and do nothing, and he'll come up with a bunch of options that you're not going to find on your own, and you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387 or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. We're also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles, great lease deals as well. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com.
Podcast is also brought to you by Tyson Drugs and G&M Pharmacy. It's G&M right there on South Lamar in Oxford. But the important thing right now is they deliver locally in the Oxford area to your home or workplace. To find out more, 662-236-2222. Also, they offer MedSync to fill your prescriptions the same day every month and make it easy on you with the fewest trips possible. So right now in these times, again, give them a shout. 662-236-2222. If you're in our live stream, again, the Cathead interview is pre-recorded, so we will cut you guys there. But go to our podcast page and listen to the rest of it here. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or any other place to do that, give us 1 second. We'll be right back talking with Cathead Distilleries.